A quick new idea, daily, from the world's greatest TEDx talks. I'm your host, Atossa Leoni, and this is TEDx Shorts. Starting at a very early age, we teach children the importance of trust. It's a key element in the framework of nearly every institution and relationship in our lives. So what happens when the public loses trust in the government? Or, potentially more alarming, when the government loses trust in the people? Wally Siewert holds a PhD in political philosophy and ethics, and he spends time examining the role morality and trust plays in politics. In today's talk, Wally asks us to examine our own moral principles and the deep political polarization that exists in the United States.
I'm a political ethicist. That means I study the morality of politics. I hear those chuckles. When I tell people what I do, the first response is usually some form of humor, right? Slightly defensive, slightly cynical. Once we get past that, I usually get some form of the following question. Is American democracy falling apart? Are we so busy yelling at each other that we can't run the country anymore? Is this political fever state we seem to be in terminal? Well, this talk is the answer to that question that I cannot give in polite conversation. Well, I've got bad news for you. You live in a democracy. That means you participate in your government. That means you take people's lives and fates into your hands on a daily basis. Every time you make a political decision, and every time you avoid making a political decision, you take people's lives into your hands. Let me give you some examples. Policing. The state maintains a police force in our name that uses lethal and violent force to enforce the moral and social order and protect us from bad individuals. We need to do this. But we also know that police forces are made up of imperfect humans. They use violent and lethal force in imperfect ways. So we have to do it, but let's do it very carefully. The conflict between individual on the one hand and community on the other is the fundamental paradox built into the very idea of democracy. One way to understand this is to imagine someone trying to create a democracy from the ground up. Hey, y'all, this is good. This is going to be great. We're all going to get together. I got this idea, all right? We're going to get together. We're going to call each other co-citizens, and we're all going to kind of pull in the same direction in order to build our community. Oh, and you're all individuals and you get to do whatever you want. See the conflict? It's unavoidable. It's amazing this thing even works. There's one ephemeral, difficult to put your finger on, hard to define, and even harder to create value that makes this all work. Trust. And when I start talking about trust in relation to democracy, people immediately think about the trust that citizens have in their government, or lack of it. And that's important, but that's only a small piece of the trust circle that democracy requires. It's not where we start, it's not where we end. Where we start is with individuals. It starts with you. You have to trust your neighbor. You have to trust whoever's driving that truck barreling down on you at 60 miles an hour to stay just a few feet to the left. Only then can we all get together and think about whether we trust the government that we're all mutually imposing on each other. But that's not where it ends. The next step in the trust circle is possibly the most important, even though we never talk about it. A democratic government must trust its own citizens. The moment a democratic government stops trusting its own citizens is the moment it replaces the judgment of the people with its own judgment, and you're on your way to authoritarianism. So are we still doing that in America? Do we trust each other enough to continue this crazy experiment in people power? The political nastiness you see on your 24-hour cable news channels, the anger you see in the streets, that's not the infection. That's a response to the infection. The infection is a familiar one. It has struck societies across history. It is an infection of hate, fear, and violence against a group or groups of people we have decided are not us, but other. Groups of people we've decided don't get the basic protections that we demand for ourselves. Groups of people that we have decided are fair game for arbitrary state power. We can arrest them, we can incarcerate them, we can kill them, we can kidnap their children without answering to anyone. Why is othering so toxic to democracy? Well, think about it. Once I've been othered, what motivation do I have to sit down with you in rational and reasonable debate? What should possibly cause me to believe that you're going to sit down and negotiate with me in good faith? This political heat is like the fever in a diseased patient. It's really horrible to live through, but it's the only thing that has a chance of burning out this infection. So to come back to our original question, is this political fever state terminal? That's up to us. This fever can either kill us or it can cure us. Be a part of the cure.
The TEDx talk you just listened to was recorded in St. Louis, Missouri. All TEDx events are independently organized by volunteers who believe in TED's mission of ideas worth spreading. Thanks to the organizing team at TEDxGatewayArch. Want to listen to more TEDx talks? Explore the entire archive on the TEDx YouTube channel. I'm Atossa Leoni. Thanks for listening, and see you tomorrow.